Calling this meeting to order, Monday, October 23rd, 6 p.m. Jerry, do roll call, please.
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
All right, this is an open meeting. It has been posted. Please join me for a pledge of allegiance. Please join me in a moment of silence. Okay, up first we have a recognition.
I am honored tonight to present this award to Ken France, the building manager at Prairie View Elementary School. On September 21st, a student began to choke in the lunchroom. Ken reacted immediately and administered the Heimlich maneuver. There is no doubt that Ken's heroic actions saved this child's life. On behalf of the Board of Education and the Mukwonago Area School District, Ken, I would like to present to you this life-saving award. Thank you for your swift response, and thank you for your continued service to the students and staff at Prairie View Elementary School.
Next, we have our presentations.
So tonight we are very fortunate to have our high school musical singers here performing from the upcoming musical Godspell. I put some information in the public content for our citizens and folks here tonight. If they want to go there, they can get more information on the presentation. So thank you, PJ and crew, for being here. And I'll turn it over to you.
About walking, there shall be carried. from my shoes singing, meet your new road. Then I'll take your hand, finally glad that you are here by my side, by my side, by my side, by my side, by my
Hello. Hello, we are some of the cast members of Godspell. We would like to invite you to come see our show November 9th through the 12th at our beautiful PAC. Thank you for letting us perform to you today.
Thank you. That was outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. I bought my tickets today.
All right, up next, we have citizens' comments. This first section in D is for citizens' comments that are things that are on our agenda. Later on the agenda, we will open that up to citizens' comments to comment on whatever you would like on the district.
First up is Deb Sweetchick. Deb, you have 3 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning.
You know, I'm always looking out for the taxpayers. I just have questions about the, what is that called? The employee benefit thing. Does Mukwonago put into the state pension? Just asking. If so, is that contribution taken into consideration? Does the district do a match for like a 401k or a 403b type fund? Is this a one-time payout? Is it taking the place of a Mukwonago doing their own pension? How does this benefit hiring early when a teacher can sign a contract but then back out? Prorated, reduced benefits. Most private sector workers work to the age of 65, 66, and soon 67 and up. If a teacher cannot work to 55, that's pretty sad. I don't understand why they are worried about that when the teacher chooses to leave. Should they be getting any kind of benefit prorated? The other thing was the transportation. I just question if these children are actually the children of the family or are they foster, because from the last time the people were here talking, the one woman said, I'm supposed to be getting 2 more kids or something. So I'm thinking if they're foster kids, they could be taken away at any time, and instead of having 5 kids at that bus stop, you'll have 2 or 3. I mean, I'm just pointing that out, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, closing?
Hi. I was the one who was talking about Eagleville's bus stop last time, and I can say that I guess there was confusion. They're not foster kids. They're all just regular kids and kids of, you know, families that live near me.
Lisa, talk into the microphone, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So I'm here again to discuss the Eagleville bus route. I'm not trying to just add a stop this time, but as my request was denied last time. So I was kind of looking into more of the rules about it. And I wanted to look at the policy of what determines what the Eagleville bus route is. Because I've done some research. I was looking at like the state legislation regarding the busing and transportation. And I understand that as a charter school, you guys don't have to provide transportation to Eagleville at all. But it says that if you choose to, that if you provide transportation for some but not all the pupils, there should be reasonable uniformity in the minimum distance that the pupils attending will be transported. What I took that to mean is that it should be even, you know. So Eagleville, it says, you know, pod stops at schools. And I think that should be the case for all the families then, because right now some parents are being told that the bus will only stop at their home schools, and other parents have bus stops that are in their own neighborhood or even right at the end of their driveway that students can walk to. So I think that there needs to be a more formal policy that has specific rules regarding, distance, safety, what qualifies as a stop, so that it can be uniform and fair to all the families and all the students at Eagleville. And I would like to say that I love Eagleville, but they do have a terrible, almost non-existent parking lot. So I think if you can get more students to utilize the bus, that would be much better for the traffic on that road and not having as many cars, which would also be great for Eagleville because it is a green school. So the less cars waiting in that line, the more kids all taking the same bus, would be wonderful for that. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it? All right. Student rep report.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So today we're going to start off with Big Bend Elementary School. We wanted to say congrats to Big Bend Elementary School families who raised almost $50,000 during the PTO Fall Fundraiser in September. It was really successful, and some of that money collected was used to paint new playground blacktops, sensory paths, academic areas, and 2 new basketball courts. We want to give a special thank you to Julie Clowitter and Heather Borgen for leading the fundraising efforts. We also wanted to say congratulations to 3rd grade Big Bend Elementary School teacher Miss Moser on getting recognized by the Rotary Club as the Teacher of the Month.
Moving on to Mukwonago High School, there will be a new rock climbing team this year at the high school that is coached by Ms. Press. They will compete once a month in the Wisconsin High School Climbing League starting in December.
For Eagle Elementary, they are continuing their green practices. Over the past month, Eagleville has started the year continuing to strengthen its green practices, such as bringing in goats to eat invasive species and starting a student green team. Finally, students in 4th through 6th grade worked with the Waukesha County representative to monitor the health of Jericho Creek. In addition to that, they held a walkathon and bubble party. Their annual walkathon raised over $11,000, the highest total yet for Eagleville. This money goes towards supporting learning and family events the PTO supports throughout the year. Students enjoyed a bubble party for raising over $5,000 and will enjoy a DJ Glow party at lunch on October 19th. There was also a Heritage Day celebration. Eagleville celebrated 174 years of history with a fun-filled day. This included a ribbon unveiling and guest speakers to talk about Eagleville history.
Moving on to Prairie View Elementary. Prairie View Elementary had a fire safety week, and they would like to thank the Kettle Moraine Fire Department for coming into Prairie View. They also had a VIP lunch week where students got to bring in one of their very important persons in their life. They also had a scholastic book fair. 6th grade students are working on their habits of mind and managing their impulsivity, persisting and listening and understanding and empathy.
For Clarendon Elementary, they recently finished their annual fundraiser called the Glow Run. The money raised will provide a new Gaga ball pit with special flooring, outdoor seating, and it will help replenish the PTO funds.
Parkview will be hosting their Parkview in the Dark, which is trick-or-treating in the Parkview Middle School. They'd like to thank Lynch Mukwonago for sponsoring their event. They also had an open house for over 25 parents who wanted to tour Parkview. During September, which is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, students wore gold and donated money to Special Spaces Wisconsin, which provides bedroom makeovers for children within 1 year of cancer treatment, and they raised almost $3,000.
MASD Community Education continued to provide a variety of cool classes for our community members. This month, community education participants explored the existence of aliens. Toddler participants and their parents also had fun getting into rhythm with music teacher Riley Robertson while he sang, danced, and played the ukulele. Art instructor John Grunman worked with a very creative group during his barn quilt painting series, and many community members learned what they needed to do to prep their homes for sale, while others learned what they needed to do to be an attractive buyer. Big Ben teacher Michelle Lemaster kicked off her monthly Crafty Crafter series for K through 2nd grade kids on Tuesdays and will roll out her 3-week series for grades 3rd through 6th on Thursdays in November. Other upcoming November classes include the Art of Travel, a tech night hosted by Communication Ed and MHS National Honor Society members, and Fun with Clay. All classes are posted online on the MASD Community Education page.
Rolling Hills had their Grandparent Lunch Week and Scholastic Book Fair. They served over 625 visitor lunches and raised several $1,000s in book sales. They would like to thank their PTO volunteers who helped organize the event. They also had a Fire Prevention Week and would like to thank the Village of Mukwonago Fire Department. The students loved seeing the fire truck up close and personal. Students carved pumpkins with their book buddies in Mrs. Lang's class and Mrs. Menchaca's class. They would like to also thank parent volunteers who helped with that event. And they would also like to thank parents who are going to their parent-teacher conferences.
For SOAR, during the month of September, SOAR students continued their PE walks, but they also worked on their volleyball skills each week. There was even a game against staff members and students, and it was especially made to note that the staff won. SOAR also took a field trip to Waukesha Planetarium to see the program called Totality, which taught about eclipses and the upcoming total eclipses that will be happening. While on the trip, students checked out the nature walk where the scarecrows were displayed for the upcoming apple harvest. This helped give art students an idea for their upcoming art projects in October. During their advisory time, they also focused on Suicide Prevention Month and building a community of support. Students came up with many ways in which they can support friends and family who might be going through hard times, signs to recognize, and learned of resources they could reach out to. And now we are moving on to our student concern section. The first student concern listed is Amendment to Policy 014.1. And then at the moment, there are no additional student concerns from our last meeting. We did meet with our administration at the high school and had a really great conversation. A lot of it just had to do with facilities and our past concerns that were mentioned, so it was a really nice conversation. They recommended sending out another student concern form in November just to see if those changed with the school year going more underway and just students getting used to different things and being back to school. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item F, consent agenda. Looking for approval of committee of the whole meeting minutes of October 9th, 2023, and approval of vouchers and receipts. Anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, consent agenda carries. We don't have anything for policy or personnel topics. Moving on to student learning topics.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Valerie Voss, principal of Prairie View Elementary. I will be going through Prairie View's two school goals tonight. Do you have anything to say beforehand? Go ahead. Okay, keep going. So this year we have two goals at Prairie View. The first goal is focused around academics, and then the second goal is focused around social, emotional, and behavioral learning for students. Our first goal is up there. By the end of this school year, 100% of kindergarten through 6th grade students will have access to a guaranteed and viable curriculum and demonstrate a year's worth of growth as measured by district assessments. I have highlighted the relation that our goal has to the district's strategic plan goal, in addition to rationale from Prairie View data. So the rationale from Prairie View is in order to have an effective professional learning community, which I know you guys have been hearing a lot about as the other principals have presented and from Stephanie. Prairie View needs a quality, guaranteed, viable, and rigorous curriculum to support student learning. We are looking for all students to make a year's worth of growth or more. I know, again, the growth score has been explained to you guys previously, that we are looking at that 50th percentile. If kids are at the 50th percentile or more, that would indicate that they are making a year's worth of growth. Looking at our data from last year in ELA, the average growth score of students in grades 1 through 6, this was measured by district assessments, so FastBridge A Reading and FastBridge A Math. 51.5% of students had met or exceeded a year's worth of growth, and 51.4% of students met or exceeded a year's worth of growth in math. So when I am asking for 100% of students, and we're currently at 51.5 or 51.4, the 100% we consider a stretch goal, but that we wrote a goal. My team felt passionately that we write a goal to encompass all students. I know last time, I believe Sean Waller was up here and explained a little bit different way to write, that his team decided to write their goal for getting 51.5%, maybe up to 65%, or what would that look like? Just a reminder of why we chose growth or overachievement is that growth really does take into consideration each individual's baseline data. And it's about the progression of each student, not about attaining a certain result. So looking and setting goals for students who are already proficient or advanced, we too want to make sure that we are growing them, not just looking at, yep, they've achieved, they're already advanced, but we want to make sure that they're continuing to grow. That is our goal. As written, our action steps to support the goal. I had kind of broken down into the 4 different PLC at work questions. So question number 1 is, what do we want students to know and be able to do? The action steps that we're taking to support that goal related to question number 1 is that we're analyzing academic standards to determine those that have been missed on the forward exam and ensure we are identifying where those standards are taught in our curriculum. And I'd like to even take that a step further. It is less about the teaching of the standards, but ensuring that the students are actually learning the standards that are being taught. So we are able to look at the forward exam data from last year and identify the standards that 50% or less or fewer students had mastered. And so we're making sure that we are identifying those where they're taught and being responsive to those standards that we have been missing. In addition to those, we are determining focus standards within each unit and identifying learning targets for students to master. Our literacy coaches, along with Stephanie and Michelle Ziegler, have been providing professional development on morphology work, fancy term for spelling and vocabulary work that a lot of our teachers have been engaging in as well this year. Question number 2 focuses on how will we know if the students have learned what we've expected them to learn. So back to the identifying the target group of students who had been tagged through the forward exam and ensuring that we have a plan in place to support their learning. So all students that had taken the forward exam, we were given a tag of the students who scored in the 25th percentile or lower, or excuse me, the lowest quartile. So the lowest 25% of Prairie View have been identified as a target student. So teachers have plans in place to support the learning of those identified students. Teachers have been creating student learning objectives based upon this target group of students in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Only 4, 5, 6 is setting goals around this because we have data from the forward exam to support this. Kindergarten through 3rd grade are setting goals around target groups within district assessment data. Question 3 and 4. How will we help students who have not learned it yet? And what will we do to enrich the learning for students who already know it? That's where our response intervention process comes in, our ALP students, but continue to purposefully organize Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions for students during our win time. And that is the what I need time that's built into everybody's schedule for 30 minutes a day. Any questions about goal 1? All right, goal 2 then is that by the end of this school year, 100% of kindergarten through 6th grade students will have access to a positive behavioral system of supports, and we will see a reduction in major and minor referrals. Again, I noted the related district strategic plan goal, And then the rationale for this goal. Our rationale is that last school year, we had 153 major incidents. Anything coded a major may include theft, bullying, harassment, inappropriate behavior, physical aggression. We had 100 minor incidents last year, and 120 of those incidents occurred on the playground. I noted a little bit about what PBIS is. I know you guys are familiar with that from multiple schools. One thing I wanted to note that I don't have up here is that when we're looking at the major, it does say 153 major incidents. 93% of the student population at Prairie View had 0 to 1 majors. 6% of kids had 2 to 5, and 1% of students accounted for 6 or more. So I think when you look at those numbers initially, it's alarming to see 153, but 93% of our kids at Prairie View had 0 to 1 majors. Additionally, with the minors, 96% of our students had 0 to 1 minors, and then 4% of them had 0 to 5 minors. So I think it's important to look at those numbers in that way as well. Then the action steps that we're taking to support the goal. Through our PBIS system, we are recognition of positive behavioral expectations for all students. So students are able to earn blue paw tickets in their classroom or throughout the building. Classrooms are able to earn red paw tickets if their class had a good day in PE, or we see their class. We recognize that they're walking down the hallway and we like to recognize the class as a whole. Additionally, we are doing Student of the Month, and so each grade level is asked to recognize one Student of the Month who was following the character trait of the month from our PBIS assembly, and then that student is recognized in front of the school. Their parents are notified. We take a picture of them, and they're up in the lobby at school. Additionally, postcards are being sent home to families, so we believe strongly in the home-school relationship and making sure that we are reaching out to the home as well. And so each student at Prairie View should receive 2 postcards this year, one from their classroom teacher, and then one from a specialist or student services member or myself as well. In addition to that, I know you've been hearing about zones of regulation. Prairie View is not fully implementing zones of regulation yet. We were a building that had adopted PBIS and went through the PBIS training a bit further behind some of the other buildings. We are piloting zones of regulation currently in 2 4th grade classrooms with the goal, the PBIS team has a goal of implementation training this spring. Our students in 6th grade have been discussing habits of mind. There's a link there with more information about habits of mind, but it's really about identifying different dispositions that you may have. So one thing that they've been talking about is managing impulsivity. What does that look like as a 6th grader to manage impulsivity? They can talk about it within the classroom. They can utilize that common language when they're having restorative conversations with kids. And 6th grade has seen a huge benefit from having some common language around that. Recess revisions we took a look at, particularly because a large majority of our incidents are happening on the playground. So we have revised our playground zones for the monitors. We have 3 recess monitors outside. Each recess monitor is designated a zone. We have been teaching explicit teaching around conflict resolution to students. How can we resolve conflict if we are arguing over something in soccer? What are healthy ways to manage the conflict with our peers? We brought the recess monitors in August, and my PE teacher, Tom Canoff, myself, and then my school counselor, Brita Tully, had trained them on the behavior expectations to be seen outside. So we wanted to be proactive with them and bring them in for that. And then additionally, they came when we reviewed the playground rules and expectations with students. So we have Panther Pride rotations that happened on September 8th, where students are rotating around the building, learning about the different expectations in the different areas, as well as Tom Canoff teaches those expectations during physical ed. Those are the 2 goals from Prairie View. Any questions about either of them?
I think we're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So while Colleen Hoyne comes up to give our last building goal presentation for the fall from Eagleville, just quickly, director's report from student learning last time was literally just the 2 presentations that we saw from Rolling Hills and Big Bend.
Hi, everybody. Is that loud enough? I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to last, but here I am in the last one. So before I get started, one thing you will know, I think that's slightly different about Eagleville than some of the other schools, is we do have 3 school goals this year. So we made a conscious decision to separate our academic goal into math and literacy. And so we have 3 school goals as opposed to just 2. So our first school goal is around math. And kind of the opposite approach of Prairie View, our school goal is very specific to a targeted group of students. So our first goal is that students who score in the 50th to 80th percentile on FAST A math in the fall will make at least 1 year of growth. So similar to Prairie View, we are focusing on growth. And part of that is we do believe, again, that allows to look at every single student growing, but also based on our preliminary forward data, our achievement score far out exceeds our growth score. So we need to continue to work on growing all students. Achievement scores are high, but we still want to make sure that all kids are growing. And then the really large piece of rationale, if you take a look at that first bullet point, is when we looked at our subgroups of students who scored in the 50th to 80th percentile, last year, only 47% of those students made 1 year of growth compared to 64% of students in other percentile ranges. So the celebration is we are growing kids that aren't in those percentile ranges, but there's a clear gap between students who are in the 50th to 80th percentile. So our belief is if we can also grow that population and continue to do the work we've been doing, we're going to see an increase in all kids continuing to grow. So some action steps to support that goal. First, we are really focusing on identifying focus standards for our trimester 1 math unit. So this are the action steps for our first 90 days. So I do envision that after 90 days, we will continue to look at focus standards, but these are our action steps currently. And so in particular, we have staff piloting math curriculum, and they are also not only looking at focus standards, but how do those focus standards look specifically to teaching multi-age? So when you're teaching 2 grade levels, how do we look at those focus standards and make sure we're doing that well for both grades, and how do we do it in a way that's viable and providing what kids need? Our 5th and 6th grade teachers, that is an area where we have a large group of kids in the 50th to 80th percentile, are gonna work with math coaches around questions 1 and 2 of the PLC model. So those are questions that you heard Val talk a little bit about, but question 1, what do we want students to know and be able to do? And question 2, how will we know if they can do it? And so they are working really closely with Teresa Jones, our math coach, to talk about how are we making sure that those kids in the 50th to 80th percentile, but all kids are getting taught those focus standards, and then what are we doing to know that they actually have learned it? And then we also, my team of teachers really talked about if we're talking about a group of students who's in the 50th to 80th percentile, we need to know what they know coming into a unit to be able to plan appropriately for how we challenge them or how we fill in gaps that they might have around specific topics. So our teachers are really working hard on using pre-assessments and really for trimester 1, starting with at least 2 units, and then using their collaboration time as a part of the PLC model to really look at those and think about what small groups do we need, how might we confer with kids, what parts of this unit might we need to do a little more teaching versus what parts of kids already maybe have a strong foundation in. That's the first goal. Questions?
Why did you do 50 to 80? Are there not, are there kids that are lower than 50, and what are you doing with?
There are, but so based on our data, those kids were growing, making a year's worth of growth already or more than a year's worth of growth. So when we looked at the data, this was the chunk of students. When we looked like below the 25th percentile, 25th to the 50th percentile, 50th to 75th, there were some kids that were right, a lot of kids in the 75th to 80th percentile that also weren't growing, and then kids above the 80th percentile. This was the chunk of kids that were not making a year's worth of growth more than any other. So we do have kids that are below the 50th, but our data shows over the last couple of years that the work we're doing is growing those kids and closing some of those gaps. We do have a few grade levels. I think like our 6th grade students in math, we don't have any kids below the 42nd percentile. So I mean, there are in 5th grade, nobody below the 32nd. So we are closing those gaps and moving kids into these percentile ranges, but then they're not growing once they get there.
So the statistical breakouts here, is that common? Is that something we've seen for a while or see at other schools as well? Because I imagine there'd be some similarities.
Like to
similarities
break down
across
into subgroups?
Just the growth lagging for that 50th to 80th percentile.
I don't know. I don't want to misspeak for the district, so I'm going to have her speak for other schools.
Yes, that is something that we're seeing in multiple buildings. We have had a lot of conversations, I think, as a district about the fact that we have really, really solid intervention supports in place at the elementary level for our students under the 50th percentile. We have supports in place for our ALP students, but that we are seeing a growth there that the students kind of waver a bit or don't grow as much as we would like them to. And so it is a discussion, I would say, in all of the buildings, depending on grade level teams. Definitely Eagleville noticed it more than the other buildings at this point, but they also only have 100 students, so something like that jumps out a little bit more.
All right, thank you.
We are encouraging our buildings to more and more focus in on subgroups. So I think if we keep presenting this to you, that you'll see more and more subgroup information coming in. And again, the idea is we're working to grow all kids no matter what the goal is, but sometimes it is easier to see growth in groups that we want them to when we're super focused in on that group of kids and who they are. So I think you will hear us talking more and more about that as a district as we move ahead with these goals and looking at data.
Thank you.
So our second goal is very similar, the same goal, but in terms of reading. So you can see we had similar data in our FAST A reading test. That only 53% of students in that percentile range made a year's worth of growth compared to 63% of students in other percentile ranges. And we also saw similar forward data where our achievement score in literacy far exceeded our growth score. And so we decided to continue to focus on that same percentile. There certainly is overlap in some of those students. They're not exactly the same students, obviously, because some students score higher in literacy or math or vice versa. We have some similar action steps in terms of assessment in particular. So the teachers at Eagleville actually did the focus standard work for literacy over the course of the last 3 years. They have identified focus standards for their literacy units, and so that work had been done. And so now we're really, that we have identified focus standards, focusing on the assessment piece of it and that question 2, 3, and 4. So how will we know if students have mastered a particular standard, and then what will we do about it if they haven't or if they have already done it to enrich and challenge? And so again, teachers are focusing on specific pre-assessment. So our 4th through 6th grade teachers took a pre-assessment for their first unit. It's called Papa's Parrots, that's the story they read, to collect some baseline data in reading. And I will tell you, they've been having some phenomenal conversations around rubrics that they created over the last couple of years, and really looking at where do kids fall on this rubric already, and how are we gonna incorporate specific small groups and strategies throughout the unit to meet the needs. And really some focused conversations on students in the 50th to 80th percentile that they might not have had before, which has been great. And then our K-3 staff is utilizing letters assessment. So this year, you probably have heard a little bit about the letters assessments in previous presentations, but they're using that as pre-assessment data to really talk about where do we need to challenge kids or, again, provide extra intervention. And the other piece for literacy that we recently have started that's been exciting work at Eagleville to support this is completing an assessment audit. So looking at all of our current assessments, determining what standards do they teach, where are the strengths and weaknesses, what standards aren't we teaching, where do we have gaps, and it's been some really fantastic discussion and conversation, and then eventually obviously we'll take that audit to to create better assessments, to tweak assessments, or to get rid of assessments that we're taking time on that really aren't providing us data on what kids should know and be able to do, as we've kind of determined. Goal 2. Like I said, we do have 3 goals. So our third goal is also around behavior, but we also focused really in on specifically respect. So over the past couple of years, we have always given students a PBIS survey at the end of the year. There's 2 different surveys, one for K2 and one for 3-6, but they ask essentially the same questions. And one of the questions is, other students treat me with respect? And then there's a scale of like agree, disagree, strongly disagree. And only 27% of students responded they agree that other students treat me with respect. So the rest of the survey was great, and then we got to that question, and that was pretty alarming. So our goal, you'll see, is that at least 60% of students by the end of this year will respond agree to that statement. We also took a look at our majors and minors data, and you can see that a large majority of our data, 61% of majors and 44% of minors, happened at recess, which is the most unstructured time, which is where typically kids say that other kids don't treat them with respect when they are at lunch and recess and unstructured times. And as you guys know, if students don't feel safe and respected at school, it's a lot more challenging to learn. So some steps we are taking. This year at Eagleville, we have the benefit of obviously having a very small group of 6th graders. And so we started a 6th grade leadership program. It is not optional. Parents were given the choice to opt out if they want it, but every kid was invited to participate. And it's during their win time twice a month, because we believe what they need is the opportunity to become leaders. We feel like especially at Eagleville, our 6th graders set the tone for the building because they truly all play together, they truly all know each other. And so if our 6th graders are leaders of respect and just leaders and all that they do, that follows with our younger students. And so we really felt like in order to do that, we needed to give them opportunities to be leaders so we could teach them to be leaders. And so every 6th grader has a leadership job, and now they're in their early stages, so they're just planning out their year and their calendar and their responsibilities. And they're going to be given opportunities to actually do leadership things at school. So there's safety leaders. They're currently very into safety on the bus and developing the PBIS matrix for the bus, which we currently don't have, so they're really into that. Our Eagleville ambassadors are helping planning PBIS things. Our community builders are working on common rules for recess games. Our service leaders have been helping with things like Grandparent Lunch Week, our pumpkin hike, things like that. And then as we get into the year, we're also going to be teaching them a leadership skill during that time. So communication, listening, skills that are just generally good leadership skills. Our PBIS lessons have also been really focused on respectful behavior this year, so being respectful in the different areas of our building. We created a common definition of respect and defined what that looked like with all of the classrooms, so we felt like it was really important that we understood what kids meant when they said they weren't respected and what they think respect is. I have started a focus group. I currently just met with 6th graders. I'm hoping to expand to collect data from kids and ask them similar questions throughout the year and get feedback on how we're working towards respect and how they think it's going and what they see as the biggest problems with respect. And then we're also tracking the number of talent tickets and high flyers we hand out. So talent tickets are like our PBIS reward system, and high flyers are for students who have gone above and beyond to meet the PBIS expectations. And that is it. Great question.
Carolyn?
Will those 6th graders then hand off the baton to the upcoming 6th graders when they move on to middle
They
school?
will, and it's kind of cool. So not all of the 5th graders are in the same class, but half of them are. And so they are working on whatever they're doing during WIN, and they see the 6th graders like planning it and get to do it, and they're kind of like looking over like, oh, that looks like I want to be a part of that. So it's exciting because I think next year they'll be even more excited to kind of continue that path and share the leadership piece of it.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, thank you.
So we will clearly do updates. We, at the end of November, will be able to finally share with you in detail our district assessment data from our forward exam, our report cards, and the ACT. So we'll kind of, it'll be a nice conclusion to hearing these 8 presentations is just where are we sitting as a district. We're super excited to share much of that data with you, but have work to do. And I think what this probably shows is that we do spend a lot of time analyzing things and taking a look. Obviously, our goal in the Mukwonago Area School District is that 100% of our kids are growing academically when they're in our buildings, and it's a major focus of what we are doing. So, thanks.
Thank you. We're on to item J, student service topics.
Hello. So tonight I wanted to bring forward some information regarding Care Solace. So in your packet, you will find, in your electronic packet, you'll find some information from the Care Solace company. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of background information. So Care Solace is a program that provides sort of like a handoff for families and a support structure for families who need some support with mental health. So I was approached by Care Solace a couple years back when we first began our partnership with the Gals Institute, but didn't want to put another thing on top of something that we had just started. So I kind of wanted to wait and see where our holes were first before committing to something else. And so some of the holes that we've seen is just for district staff to try to navigate insurance or trying to get people in the right spot. We do have a mental health navigator, but even with that, figuring out who does private pay, who does public insurance, who does which brand of insurance from wherever you work for, that was finding itself to be extremely difficult. And then also just the follow through the time it takes to follow through with families who may not be able to get a hold of somebody, maybe work all day and just can't make those phone calls on lunch or breaks or whatever it might be. So we found that those were 2 very specific holes in our own programming. And so I reached back out to Care Solace for another conversation. So the benefits of Care Solace is that it helps parents navigate that mental health care system. It allows our school staff to feel confident in the handoff of students and families to a team member who will help them navigate questions like, who takes my insurance? What if I don't have insurance? Who's accepting new patients? And then, like, what is that wait time to get in? Additionally, barriers such as a specialization in a specific topic. So if somebody wants to see somebody specific for an eating disorder or self-harm, they have that ability to look into a provider that is very topic specific. And then also be able to have that social stigma that sometimes comes along with mental health be something that happens off-site with families and a care companion provider. So Care Solace is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then there is also, it's also responsive to intensive care. So like if somebody needs some very immediate inpatient or suicidal, it also has a helpline that is available all the time. So Care Solace would be roughly $13,542 for the remainder of this school year, should we decide to bring it forward, and $48,000 roughly for the next 3 years. So to bring Care Solace on, we would use remaining funds from the grants that we have that are mental health based. One would be the Get Kids Ahead initiative grant or some other public funding that the district will be coming into also with school-based mental health services. So at this time, also I know Joe used Care Solace in Waukesha shortly after the tragedy with the parade, and he could certainly speak to his experience also.
Yeah, so it was from a school district standpoint, it was a great resource to be able to provide to families, but it was a resource that we didn't have to manage as a school system. We were able to provide information to parents, had it posted on our website. And what we found over the years with the familiarity of it, was that the number of contacts were in the thousands per month to Care Solace, meaning the outreach, the hitting the website to look for resources. But what we found was hundreds and hundreds of kids were getting transferred into service much quicker than if parents were trying to navigate that process on their own. So in my experience, we would have meetings with families. They would indicate, I'm trying to get an evaluation done on my child, but the wait is 6 months. My child needs mental health treatment, but the wait is 3 months, or I can get there in a month, but I have to go up to Sheboygan. Things like that were happening. What Care Solace has done is it's shrunk the response time, the time into treatment. It gets much, much quicker for families. And what they find is that the bulk of resources that they have access to are much more local. Telehealth, teletherapy, but also clinics in the area that people just miss when they're doing their own search. It broadens the individual family's network. And again, the nice part is we provide the information to the family, but then that's where it ends for us as a school system. We're not in the process of managing and being the professionals in mental health. We're able then to help with that referral process to a provider. And the feedback that we had from families in Waukesha, in our neighboring school districts that use this, it's just been very, very beneficial for families.
Do you guys have any questions?
So Christine, the cost would be covered by some grants?
It'd be covered by, so there's still money in the Get Kids Ahead initiative grant that would fully cover it. And then the school-based mental health grant will be coming out in a different manner this year that I'll bring more information with forward when I have it. But either avenue can be covered by grant money.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Christine?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll be bringing this back at a future meeting. So if you do have any questions, please reach out in the interim, but we'll have this back to us in November then.
All right, we don't have any finance and facility topics, so we're moving on to item L, action items and policies.
Thank you. We discussed a number of policies earlier this month. The first one that is listed is district-sponsored field trips. We provided some clarification in there around district-sponsored and trips that are not sponsored by the school district. I did not receive any questions from board members between the presentation and now, so I'm here to answer any as it comes up. The next policy was the selection of instructional materials and equipment. This policy brings forward, it just helps us provide a definition for instructional materials and instructional equipment. This was something that has come into question in the last couple of years. So we wanted to provide clarity to our staff and to our community as to what that is. And then just any concerns would go to policy 9130, public requests, suggestions, and complaints. The next policy that is in front of you is an academic honesty policy. Stephanie and her team had an opportunity to put their eyes on this. This would be a new policy for us, but it would touch on the big issues that we would face on a day-to-day basis around plagiarism, cheating, so on and so forth. Tied to this policy then is 7540.08, the artificial intelligence. With the advent of AI, ChatGPT, I guess most popular, we wanted to be able to have something in here that provides some guidance to our system around the AI in the classroom and guide us if we're dealing with some abuses of it on a day-to-day basis. And then the last policy that we have in front of you tonight is for nursing mothers. And this is some recent guidance from legal, just to make sure that we have protections in place for our staff who are mothers back to work and in need of nursing or pumping for their child. So those are the slate of policies up for approval this evening.
I will make a motion that we approve all policies as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. L, number 2, voting in schools.
Yep, so prior to our committee meeting on October 9th, we held a workshop with the Village of Vernon and the town of Mukwonago to discuss voting in district schools. Board members requested this be put on the tonight's meeting agenda. We thank the town and the village for providing us some information on recent polling numbers, but this is up for discussion and possible action this evening.
Jerry?
I'll start. After listening and thinking about it, I feel personally that that I'm willing to compromise possibly on larger elections. However, in looking at the numbers on the 2 sheets that came out, the Vernon and the Mukwonago one, I do believe that going forward in 2025, that the numbers really haven't changed that much since a long time ago. And so I think that they would be able to, that it is their responsibility to find a place for voters, and that to expect our families to have those days off is an unrealistic expectation. And I know they had asked for just next year. Well, November is a whole year away, so I think they have plenty of time to communicate to their voters that where they're going to vote next November, because it isn't even November yet. So I don't know what that means for a vote or what we do, but those were just some of my thoughts, that I didn't think some of their rationale was strong enough to have us change our school days for our families, because that's our job, is to take care of our families in the schools.
So Terry, can I just clarify?
Speak on the mic, please.
Sorry. Just to clarify, you're looking to stop voting in the schools at the end of 23 or at the end of 24?
We already have off for April of 24. We already have that in our calendar, but what we need is, what Dr. Cook needs is for our schedule for planning for next year, which comes out in December. So that would be the November of 24. And so I don't know that. And I know that's a presidential, and so I know there's some leeway there, but there's going to be this presidential, and then there's going to be the next presidential.
Right.
And I also feel that for the town in particular, I know I did ask the question about the parking, but I've driven by there and I've looked at it, and we've talked about the parking in Big Bend, and it's not ideal at the schools either. So I just am having a real hard time justifying changing everything that has been for. I know, can't stick in the mud either, but.
No, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, so that's what I think that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, what's the difference between November of 24 and April of 25? I just don't see that big of a difference.
Gail?
I agree with Cherry on this. I've left the last time still feeling really concerned about the safety of the students and the staff, and about them. I don't want to see them miss instructional time, and I think that I feel that the schools do a lot to have community interaction and make the buildings available and really work with the community. And being a longtime resident of Vernon, I think the voting can work in a different place, like the town hall or wherever. I don't like the safety part, and I spent a good part of my life in the schools as a teacher, and there's always the unexpected, and there's so much that you don't even know goes on to have the voting come in for a day. So I really think the kids' safety and their learning comes first.
So we're talking about the big elections every year, or are we talking about 0 elections every year? Are we going to compromise here? Because I think the town, I don't know about Vernon, but, well, I grew up in Vernon, but the town of Mukwonago is pretty good to us as far as our kids and what they do for our kids. I think there should be a compromise somewhere. That's my opinion.
And I really don't think there needs to be any voting in the schools.
Okay.
And I think they didn't like the back and forth with changing locations too. April is here and November is there. I think, should we make a motion to
Yes.
continue discussion? I'd like to make a motion, chiming what Cherry had said. I think motion would be starting after the April election, there'll be no voting in Big Bend or Rolling Hills or any of our schools.
Including the presidential?
Including the presidential.
Can you say it again then for me? Yep. I'm not sure I'm following yet.
The motion would be there is no voting in our schools after this April 2024 election. No.
I will second it to start conversation.
We have a motion and a second. Any question or discussion? Erica?
So when Vernon and Mukwonago came, their request was, they're like, yeah, we already have April, we need November. After that, Vernon said, we'll figure it out, we can do whatever we need to do. The town, right, of Mukwonago was like, well, we don't have any future plans. So I think what they came to ask us for was, can you help us out for November? At that point, I'm like, I'm willing to give you November because it's a big one, but after that, you need to figure out what you're doing. I don't know what Mukwonago will do, but that isn't our responsibility. So what I'm hearing is you don't even want to give them the November, which they said they have no place to go for this coming November 24.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if we
So
get, oops, sorry.
Crosby?
I actually agree with you, Erica, because I do think that that is a reasonable compromise, given that that is what they were asking. I agree with you that it's not our responsibility, but as a gesture of goodwill, that is what they were requesting. And especially for the town, I vote in the town. I've never had an issue going back and forth, but I do understand that that is a concern. But I do think as a compromise, allowing them to do the November 24 election in the schools, and then that's it. After that, no more voting in the schools.
Yeah, that gives Mukwonago 3 years now. So from November to a little over 3 years till the next big election, the midterm election. Seems like a decent compromise.
Gail?
But they still will have a whole year to decide.
Gail, talk to the microphone, please.
They still have a whole year for, it's October, the end of October, but it's 2023, and the presidential election isn't until November 2024. So I think that's enough time to find somewhere else. I agree that it should just be after this coming April, we're done. No more voting in the schools. Yeah, for me, it's the instruction and the safety of the students, and I really see that as our number one priority.
I think.
Sherry?
Go ahead, Sherry.
I would be willing to do the compromise because November 24 is a presidential, and I know one of our discussions, and yours in particular, Mr. Wirtz, was doing some education around voting and about national. That was yours?
Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Wirtz. I guess it was Mr. Schwartz's.
I think I told Vito about it beforehand.
Anyway, so I would be willing to amend. Well, no, I seconded it. You'd have to amend. But I would be willing to compromise for the November as long as we were in agreement that, and after that, so.
Schwartz?
I think the town of Vernon and the village, and Vernon also made sure that the safety concerns were talked about, discussed, and there was a plan there. I think compromise is a good thing.
I don't want to compromise because I think it interrupts the school week with throwing an election on a Tuesday. So we have students that are starting their school week on a Monday, then they miss school on Tuesday. Parents have to figure out childcare, then they go back to school on a Wednesday. The entire week is screwed up. It's like Memorial Day week, the middle of the week. I think I understand, but I think we just need to rip the Band-Aid off and just call it what it is.
Sherry?
I have another thought. Could we use that day as a teacher work day where we would not have students in the building but our teachers, so we would be able to shift our schedule around a little bit so that the kids would have had it off anyway? You know what that would be another part of the compromise. Maybe if just that one time we could.
Yeah, we're in the process right now of working out the school schedule, school calendar for next year. So we could build that Tuesday as a elementary level work time for our staff. It's coming near the end of the term or near towards the end of the term. So that could be accomplished, yes.
Vito?
I think it's worth pointing out, it's not that they just don't want to, it's just it's like not possible if there's a lot of people coming out and giving them 3 years to, like Vernon's talking about building something. All right, we'll see what Mukwonago can do if you have a 3-year notice, like this is going to be an issue in 3 years, they got plenty of heads up. They're just gonna tax us to build another building anyway, so do we wanna, that's where it's gonna end up coming from is us. So do we wanna use what we already have for now so it can be possible? It seems like a reasonable ask.
Any other questions or discussions?
Not so
Erica?
much a question, but just for clarity, I feel as though we're all in agreement that for the safety of our students, for the interruption of our schedules in our school year, we do want this to end. This is not an indefinite thing. Like, I just want to reiterate, I agree with you. Like, this is not necessarily beneficial for our students and our staff. It's a great thing to do with our community. They support us. We are all in this together. But I do think for me, when I know that there's an end to something, I'm far more willing to be like, okay, I will give you your last November, and then we have to be done. So I just don't want you to think I'm not, like, with you guys on the safety and the disruption. It is. It's real, and we need to be worried about that. But
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to end voting in our schools in April 2024. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Chair, do a roll call.
Crosby?
No.
Erica?
no.
Jake?
No.
Gail?
Yes.
Dale?
No.
Vito?
No.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Greg?
No.
Jerry? No. So I make a motion that we allow voting in our schools through the November of 2024. Oh. Through November of 2024, and at that point, we will not allow voting in their schools anymore.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
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 Roll call.
Crosby?
Aye.
Erica?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Gail?
No.
Dale?
Yes.
Vito?
Yes.
Carolyn?
No.
Craig?
What are we voting at? What is it again now? So-
Ending voting in 24. November of 24 would be the last election in the schools.
No.
This is the opposite of the last
Yes.
one.
No. Yeah.
Are you a yes or a no, sir?
What did I say before?
Do you want to stop?
I want to keep going.
Okay. So he's a no to the.
He's
No.
He's a no.
No.
I am.
think
I'm
you're-
confused.
you're-
I am.
I think you're a
a
yes.
Okay.
You want to give them one
I
more,
wanted to give him one more year.
one more rodeo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that's
Okay.
So that's a yes, then.
You're a yes.
Okay.
So there's yeses and 2 noes.
Okay. Motion carries. Moving on to resignations, retirements, and new hires.
Great. We have one new contract that was offered this month to Amy Keller. She is currently employed in our district as a literacy interventionist, and she will be moving to the special education teacher position at Big Bend Elementary.
I make a motion that we approve this appointment.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moved on to the 2023-24 budget and tax levy.
All right, so I'll just provide some very quick information for you then, and then I'll leave it to you. I would like to do, as we've done in the past, the 23-24 budget and 23-24 tax levy as separate votes and roll call style. Okay, so on the screen then right now, we have the proposed K-12 tax levy now that our equalization aid numbers are finalized. What I am proposing right now in this budget, I gave you all a handout. There was some for the people in attendance. It's our full budget is here. And on the second page of that is the final proposed tax levy that I'm bringing to you tonight here. So the gross tax levy is $32,473,950. Okay, we focused throughout this time in making sure that the bottom line of our taxpayers would decline. So while the gross tax levy increases by 4.6%, I'm going to go to the next slide here and show you how the net tax levy, that bottom line, is going to decrease. So last year, you can see that as you add up the various funds and the tax levies associated with it, last year's gross tax levy in 22-23 was $31 million and change. And then state government applied what's known as the school levy tax credit. So the net tax levy that went out to our residents was $25,710,000. Going into this year, you can see the proposed tax levies for the various funds that I showed on the previous screen. The gross tax levy appears to grow, which it is, but knowing that the school levy tax credit from state government is going to grow by $1.5 million at least, we anticipate an average decrease in the bottom line of our taxpayers to be about 0.2%. I conservatively estimate that value, and I do think it can be as big as a 1% decrease in the bottom line on our taxpayers' tax bills for the K-12 portion. So that is the proposed tax levy that I'm bringing to you tonight. The proposed budget then is on page 3, on that third page of the handout I provided to you. Okay? So you can see the various funds. The most important ones are Funds 10 and 27. Fund 10 has, it's a break-even budget. We have $64 million in revenues and expenses. Okay, that includes a $1.1 million transfer to Fund 46 to pre-fund future building needs that we know we'll have. Fund 27 has an $11.4 million for special education budget. Has $11.4 million budget with equal receipts and revenues. The total that you'll see on the print-off that I gave you, I didn't have enough room as to what's on the screen. This budget for 23-24 has receipts across all funds totaling $88.8 million and expenditures totaling $90.1 million. Do you have any questions I can answer before you vote tonight?
Don't see any, Tom.
Okay.
We've been talking about this for 6 months.
Best part is, Craig, we're going to start talking about next year's budget in November, so it's going to start all over again. I apologize, but there it is. So,
What was our third Friday count?
our third Friday count decreased. So 2 things happened. One is our third Friday count, as we count the number of residents in our district, and I put that in the memo there, so let me just pull that out there, decreased by 58 students. However, our 3-year average, as we look at the 23-24 school year, plus the 2 prior, take the 3-year average of that is up 14. Okay, so in a 1-year snapshot, we're down 58. The 3-year average smooths that out to a gain of 14. I think primarily because what is that now, the 2021 school year dropped off of the 3-year average, and we added the 23-24 school year that we're currently in, and the 2021 school year had a lot of virtual learning, and that was a lightly, I don't want to say lightly attended, but all school districts had significant variations in what their 2021 membership counts were. That was an anomaly, if that makes sense.
Virtual learning not count for that? Sorry, did virtual learning not count?
I think we saw a lot of homeschooling in that particular year.
Gotcha. All right.
I don't even want to get into the reasons why. That's in the rear view. We're moving forward.
I'm going to bring it up.
Any questions? I have a full presentation I can give to you if you really want it.
I'd like to make a motion.
What is that?
So which motion do you want to make? Do you want to make it for the tax levy, Craig, or do you want to make it for the budget?
I'll do the tax levy.
Okay. So I guess the motion that I would ask you to make, excuse me, I'll go back to that, is a tax levy. Let me back up the screen. Totaling $32,473,950.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And Tom would like a roll call, please.
Crosby?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Vito?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Sherry, yes.
Motion carries.
I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion on the budget.
All right, so the budget then that I presented here, that's on the screen right now, totals $88.8 million in receipts and $90.1 million in expenditures.
I make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
Second it.
You already motioned.
Did you motion, Chris? I didn't hear you.
It's okay, Sherry, go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
I'd like
it's
to-
okay.
I'd like to delete my motion or whatever.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We do a roll call, please.
Crosby?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Vito?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Sherry, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to transportation concerns.
Okay, so we are back here tonight to finalize the two transportation concerns from the Clausine family and the Keys family that came last week here. So I guess if it's all right, we heard from the Clausine family regarding the Eagleville transportation. And I also have Alan Buchholz here from Dousman Transport. Alan is the manager of the Mukwonago terminal. If it's all right, I'd like to call for Alan to come to the table here and help the conversation out. So what I'll do here.
Hello, Alan.
Alan, so I drew out this bus route here so you can see what we're looking at. I'll give everybody a copy here. All right, so you're looking at a copy of Eagleville Route 19.
Thank you.
Eagleville used to have 2 bus routes and now has 1. So this Eagleville Route 19, whoops, I gave you 2 there, has 42 riders assigned to it. Okay. When we looked at our routes previously, we had low ridership on one particular route. So, thank you. So we reduced that route, and we're down to 1 route with 42 riders on it. You can see that this route starts at, it does a pod stop there at just off to the right-hand side at Clarendon Avenue Elementary School. It begins at 7:44, which is pretty early for it's at the front end, one of the earliest routes that begins for our elementary students. From there, it goes down NN. It turns left onto, Alan, help me out there, is that Pinehurst?
Pinehurst, I believe.
Yep, it goes into Pinehurst, so then that second X you see is the second pickup. Back out to County Road I, up to EE, stops at Section, picks up kids at Section, down to Rolling Hills, another pod stop there. Back out to NN, goes over to the Eagles Air Subdivision for a stop. Then it goes to the Sprague, down Sprague for another stop. Back down Sprague all the way to County Road LO, makes another stop or 2, and then it finally arrives at Eagleville Elementary School. So that is the route right now. The request is that we would stop in the Field Park neighborhood. So, you guys understand the request that's being made?
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions that Alan can answer for you here?
Where's the, can you, like, on this map, give us a little bit clearer picture where Field Park would be?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually going to pull this up on the screen here for those following along at home. All right. So Clarendon's somewhere in this vicinity here where I'm wiggling my mouse, all right? And it heads down past Highway 83, past the high school, and then it turns left and wiggles through this neighborhood and makes a stop right where I'm at now. I'm going to move this screen here. All right, so it makes a pickup here, then it wiggles back to County Road I, and then it continues up to go to Section and completes the route. So we have this stop at Clarendon. All right, and the families that we heard from last week and tonight live in this neighborhood here, and I would like for, in addition to the Clarendon stop, to travel down NN and then to make their way into the neighborhood for a pickup, and then we would have to either get back out and complete the route as currently designed, or to wiggle through the neighborhood to make the stops that are already existing. Alan, is that correct? Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Clausine, are you here? Is that, I've captured your request there? That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, because, you mentioned that it does go through that other neighborhood, and that's, stopping right in the neighborhood. And all the other stops are stopping for 1 or 2 kids, and it's right in somebody's neighborhood. It's not a pod stop, it's not at a school.
So I think in the history of the route, though, and Erica, I know you know this because your daughters, you guys lived on the other side of the district, and that the Eagleville, the farthest east route was Clarendon, and that the expectation, historically speaking, was if you want to take advantage of Eagleville, get to one of the existing stops. I think historically that's been it. Now, whether you want to add another stop or not, it's completely your call. We have one request this year. I would assume next year there will be another, and that's just the nature of how, the requests come. They do come. So whether you, from a logistical perspective, Alan, can we fit this in?
We can, and well, based on, I think I want to clear something up too, is each one of the elementary schools already has its own attendance area. Rolling Hills, Section, Big Bend.
I'm sorry to cut you off there, Alan, but you can see those attendance areas on that map against the wall. The light blue area is Big Bend, the pink area is Clarendon, the green area, yep, go
What
ahead.
that does not show is the Eagleville attendance busing area and why we have a pod stops, because originally the board, way back when, set up, or Eagleville became a charter school, which then meant the whole district is entitled to go to that school. Well, it doesn't make sense to bus kids from Big Bend all the way to Eagleville. It's logistically, the route's going to be too long, you're going to add more routes, the cost, things like that. So the board then set up an Eagleville attendance area for busing, which I don't know if you've ever seen it. I do have one map. I didn't bring multiple. I could share it with you if you guys want to see it and hand it around.
So Alan, Alan, we have 90 square miles in the district, correct?
Correct. So this attendance area was set up to bus kids who are, it would be more like a traditional attendance area for Eagleville, was what that is. And then the pod stops were set up for other people in the district who wanted to go to Eagleville, but we're going to set up some stops for you. You have to get to those stops. And that's where the pod stops came into play as far as stops outside of that school's attendance area, which Eagleville is already given the luxury of having extra stops outside of their area. Section school, I do not go into Rolling Hills or Big Bend area to bring section kids in. We only bus the kids that are in their area to that school. And so that's what was set up with Eagleville, was an attendance area, and anybody who outside that area wanted transportation, you have to get to that pod stop for us to bring you in.
So some of these pods, maybe there was 4 or 5 kids at one time, but they went to middle school and the pod number dropped down, et cetera.
They vary from year to year.
Yeah.
I mean, we did it, like Tom had mentioned, we did have at one time 2 buses for Eagleville. Well, it got to a point it didn't make sense for, from a cost standpoint, and we were able to integrate the pod stops and the Eagleville attendance area into one bus, and that's what we have now.
42 riders, Wayne?
Scheduled to ride around 30 to 36 ride normally.
And usually a full bus is how many?
I would say on average anywhere from 30 to 50. Erica?
So this additional stop following Clarendon, it had to have started in the last 4 years. Do you know what year we added that stop?
Which one?
So following Clarendon, this one that comes south, I can't tell where it's.
On Pinehurst and Medina, I think that might be.
That would probably have been started, to my memory, probably shortly after the subdivision was established.
So the reason I bring it up is not that just because that's how we used to do it means that it's the right way to do it, but I was an Eagleville alum when we had the 2 buses, and the pod stop bus was a pod stop bus, and it was already a long enough ride from Clarendon to Section to Rolling Hills to Eagleville. So in my particular case, which I'm only one person, but does live on the eastern border, to drive into Clarendon is already 15 minutes, then put my kid on the pod stop bus for 3 stops, almost another 40, and then go to school was a long ride. So I was actually very shocked when I heard, when it went down to 1 bus, that these Eagle stops still existed. In my world and in how I process, I'm like, the attendance, what did you call it? The Eagleville busing area or the attendance area, I think might need to be addressed because, like Linda mentioned, it should be uniform. If we're gonna have pod stops, let's do pod stops. We shouldn't have pod stops and a handful of random stops in people's neighborhoods and areas. Because yes, we had a request this year, but we had one last year as well. So I just feel like it makes a lot more sense to me that if you want to go to Eagleville, here's what we have to offer you. Everyone that, I'm not going to say everyone, but the vast majority of families that go to Eagleville go for a specific reason, and transportation isn't the stop. That's not going to be the deal breaker in my viewpoint. It might be for some, but that's why we have neighborhood schools as well. So do you know how many kids are at this Pinehurst stop?
I do not.
Yeah, so I guess what I would prefer to see happen for next year, because we can't do anything about it this year, is we drop to our 3 pod stops if we have 1 bus and that's it. We had 2 buses to help deal with all of this over here on the west side, but to have 1 bus do all of that, that's not fair for our Eagleville kids.
It's a long route.
It's a very long route. On windy roads, car sick, lots of things. So I assumed those stops had gone away when we dropped the bus until this year. So that would be my proposal for next year.
Jerry?
I know that if you school choice to a different school in the district, it's your responsibility to get your children to that school. You're not bused. So let's say you live in the village and you choose to go to Rolling Hills or Section. It's your responsibility to get your kids there. And I don't know if any of you have been around, but either Clarendon, which is the Walkers, or Rolling Hills, which is, because some of those kids come from way over here in Two Rivers over there, that the traffic is amazing because parents are taking their kids there. So I see that for these pod stops, if you're bringing your child from Erica's house to the pod stop, the people that are on the western side are not having to drive anywhere. So I'm in agreement with that there is some inequity in this, and that if you would choose to do Eagleville, then here are your 3 choices for buses, or you take your child to school, just like everybody else in the district who chooses a school that's not their neighborhood school.
I agree with you, but what do we do?
Make a motion to either approve or deny the request.
So we could make a motion to deny this particular request and then ask for this item to be agendized in the future for an official vote.
We can do that.
Or further discussion.
We can do that. That's fine.
For the sake of uniformity, I make a motion that we deny this request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay. The second and final transportation concern that we have right now is middle school, high school route that travels down County Road L. So Alan's here, and Mr. Keys, Mr. Jeremy Keys is also here. I'm going to call on Mr. Keys to provide his request one more time, if that's okay. I asked him to come at 6:30, and that was after the public comment, so that one's on me. But Alan, I don't have a map drawn up, but I do have it up on the screen here, so we can see Highway 164, Chubby's Cafe is there in the southwest corner. This bus route in the morning travels down 164, turns right, on 164. It stops along the route, along L at various points. At this point right here where my mouse is, where the particular student walks from somewhere in this area down to County Road L, gets picked up, and then the bus continues on down its path rather. Now the elementary routes, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, those do enter the neighborhoods given the age of the kids, but for middle school, high school, they do not, with the exception of one student who has how would you describe it, Alan, I guess?
So I did verify with the driver today that the one neighborhood we did start entering, Meadowview, was for a special needs student who did not qualify for special ed busing, would ride the regular bus, and so we did start going in there for her. I did verify with the driver today that she is not currently riding, so that stop is up for review to pull the bus back out of that neighborhood.
Okay. So we did, and I think that's something Mr. Keys brought up, that we were entering a neighborhood, and yes, as Alan said, we were for a special education situation, but that student's not riding, so we will review that and continue to stop along L for middle school, high school students. So, do you guys have any questions about the nature of the route before I ask Mr. Keys to?
Jerry?
So, Alan, do you feel that this road is a dangerous road to be standing on? Because from what we've heard, it is. I'm sorry I did not have an opportunity to come. I really am. Because if it's a safety issue, it's different than a convenience issue.
So in past, I would say that I do not see it as an unsafe road, and that we do have safety equipment on the buses that is supposed to negate that type of situation with cars going, 50. I know the speed limit is 55. Highway 83 is also 55, with the exception that 83 is obviously a divided road. We do pick up on 164 south as well from Big Bend. So in the past, in tradition with bus stops along this road, there have been a number of questions or concerns brought up by parents to the board. And the board at that time had said, well, for elementary school kids, we will enter the neighborhoods. And for middle school, high school students, we will not enter the neighborhoods. And that was a decision, again, several years back, and that's something that is brought up, I would say, fairly often, every few years or so, to the school board regarding concerns, parents' concerns about the speed of the road, students potentially having to cross the road. Again, the school buses are equipped with safety equipment, but I also understand that not all the time, cars don't always stop for those.
Vito?
Would it be dangerous if there was like 2 feet of snow on the ground?
I wouldn't. I look at the weather as far as the busing goes. It's Wisconsin. It snows everywhere. We're snowing all of our neighborhoods. Ultimately, it comes down to the responsibility of some of the other traffic people out there too. Yes, it is our responsibility to keep the kids safe on the buses. But again, going back to tradition, as far as I'm going to, I guess, state board policy that parents are responsible for their students at the stop until at which point they step foot on the bus. And then again, our responsibility ceases once they exit the bus.
So I think in the past, I'm sorry, I'll raise my hand.
Erica? Sorry.
Go for it, Erica.
I was just going to ask, what we cannot tell on the map is any sort of topography. By Pat, is that Pat Avenue? Is that where we're asking?
That's Parr Avenue.
Parr, thank you.
For them. They live in the Klusendorf and Klein neighborhood on the other side of
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is there a hill there? I mean, there's not a big curve. So you could see, if you step back onto Klusendorf and stay off of L, you should be able to see at a distance unless there's a large hill. Is there a hill there? Thank you. I appreciate that.
So there's a hill as it comes up on Janesville, and then as you round the corner, which you can't really see down there, it's pretty well blocked as you round that corner coming from the west. So Erica, I think as you were saying before, that for other students that get picked up along L, that we ask them to obviously don't stand on the road or near the road, stand back. You can approach the bus once the bus comes to a stop. Is it dark out? Yeah, it's dark out every day that we wake up, and it'll stay that way until for a long time, right? So have a flashlight, stand back. Parents have to have responsibility. The expectation is that they have responsibility till their student gets there. We have a number of, and Alan can attest to this, we do have a number of stops like this on County Road E, County Road EE, Highway 83, County Road L. There's no such thing as a perfectly safe bus stop. So, I mean, as much as we would like to do, curbside pickup for every single student, yes, I would love to do that. Can we do that? We can't. So I guess that's the basic expectation I just laid out right there for students who live on L that are getting picked up along there. And I don't know if there's any other information that anybody wants to lend to this here.
Thank you. So yeah, there is a little bit more information. Number one, there's no lights, no lighting or anything right up on the corner there. So, when there's multiple cars up there, we had multiple families dropping off their kids and getting their kids picked up from high school. My daughter was there a couple of years. It was okay, you know, we kind of had like a little traffic jam area right there, cars would go around us. It's just us. I've almost been hit twice now already, sitting at that curve, because what happens is people come around that corner and they just fly right in. Again, there's no lights, no nothing. And it's just my son this year. That's it. So we're not asking for anything huge. I feel right now that, you know, coming to the board with this, that we're faced with an automatic no. It's an uphill battle for this, and we're just asking for a little compromise. You know, you guys were talking about that earlier this evening, for safety. If you're going to risk assess this, it's one small stop for one child. I completely understand if there were more than one child out there, children, sorry, it would make perfect sense then, and change it back. But, you know, it's one child. You may have the equipment on the bus, but what do we do when we're just sitting out there by ourselves? And to answer your question about the snow, those snow drifts that get right there are insane. So people don't see you because they'll plow it, and that particular corner right there, you can't see anything coming around the corner. We also have a daycare that's down toward the end as well. So there's constant traffic coming back and forth along Kunzendorf right there. That goes all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac. Down at the middle where we're asking to be picked up between Klein and Kunzendorf, it's right in. It's a right-hand turn. He gets in, no problem. Picks up Matthew, back onto Kunzendorf. It literally took, I think, 25 seconds. We timed it. I kicked the kid out, drove around, picked him up, timed it. It was like 25 seconds. That's all we're asking for is 25 seconds. I pay plenty of taxes for you guys. You know, I've been here 11 years, voted for many of you. I'm here once asking for a favor.
Crosby?
Tom, the stops that you had mentioned on the busy roads, do they have multiple kids at those stops? I mean, I guess that's my concern is it's one, no offense, dude, little bit small child.
Stand up, Matthew.
I mean, I say that kindly because my daughter's a little peanut. So
we're all vertically challenged in my family, so
right.
It
So
gets us the parking spot.
I guess, you know, for me, if those other stops, I understand. If they have multiple students, to me, that makes it slightly more safer because you have a bigger group to watch out for. But if it's one small kid, I guess
Ellen,
I would
can you
be okay with that.
It's also worth noting that it's kind of ideal. Like the other stops on there, there's nowhere to go in and come out and make it really easy, so it's kind of a pain. So while it's like, I'm no offense, I'm not a big fan of making changes for just a single person just for no reason, but it seems really easy. I think about if you're gonna, like that's a busy road. It's super, and we're coming into 4 to 5 months of what could be a lot of snow, a lot of stuff, and it's in the dark. It doesn't, I don't understand why not, because if you can do something super simple to get somebody off the road when it is potentially really nasty out there and dark and all those different things, all you have to do is make a right, a left, and a right. I don't even if it is for just one kid, I don't understand why we wouldn't. The other places, it's not that easy to do.
Erica?
I hear you. I agree with you. And as a parent, that's what I want to do. But if you've ever had to shrink bus routes and eliminate spots, that's why you don't make exceptions. And again, I want to do this for you. I don't think that we should do this because then anybody with a very easy round turn, they can ask the same thing. I mean, Alan hasn't answered in terms of how many people are at stops, but I have seen I get stuck behind the bus on National coming all the way out, and those stops on ES all the way out are driveway 1 kid, driveway 2 kids, driveway 1 kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're stopping at people's homes. So they're not, on the busy roads, they're not, from what I understand, big groups of kids. Those are at the entrance of the subdivisions. Other people that have come before, they're like, well, now I have to sit in my car and wait in my car with my kid. And we're like, yes, you might have to do that. Have your car lights on, sit there. We have an amazing app that tells you exactly when the bus is about to pull up. So you don't have to be there 15 minutes early and risk it. You can be there within like the minute it shows up. So I don't know if you guys have that, if your student has it on the phone, but I live by it on rainy days, snowy days. I'm like, we're not going out there before we have to. So while it seems easy and doable, it may be, but it's whether or not that is the tone that the board wants to set moving forward for transportation appeals.
Bert?
So real quick, Alan, how many stops are made between here and here.
Okay, so the bus starts picking up on just east of the river, right, you know, and then,
Yep.
then stops at the next neighborhood, River Oaks, and then would be the Klusendorf-Klein stop right there. Makes a resident stop.
So so they all have the same issue with L being very, very
With
busy.
the exception of by the river, that does drop down to about 35 miles an hour.
Okay.
So just west of Klusendorf and Klein is a residence on the right-hand side, and then that on the left side is where we started entering a neighborhood again for that special needs student who's no longer riding. Technically, we would review that and pull that bus out of there. Then the bus continues down to Norris and back out up Maple and Center.
Did you get your answer about how many kids were at the?
I don't think so, but I had another question.
If I could just real quick, when the bus does get out on Edgewood, which is 45 miles an hour, it makes it's scheduled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stops.
Are those all residences?
Mostly residents, because there's no shoulder, there's nothing in order to walk on.
So I bring up the residence part because residents have a driveway without any cars driving on them, where the road has like when they're on the road, that's inclement weather, they're just in the road. Or you got cars stacked up. If he did have 15 people on his stop, then there'd be 15 cars stacked up in the road. So I think those are different if you're stopping at a house. Sorry.
Would it be safer to stop at Klein instead of at Kusendorf? With it, I don't know what the structure, like how it looks.
They're
would that be
both
better?
same-ish intersections. They're roughly similar.
Okay.
I will say though, between Klein and Kusendorf, where we're asking to be picked up, there's a bunch of lights down there. So.
By Klein?
Can you where exactly are you asking to be picked up?
Right here.
Okay.
So that travels down, turn right, pick up here, come back out, enter it back onto L and continue.
I just want to add that I am concerned about student safety, but we have that all over our district. There's rolling hills, turns, snow, no sidewalk. It's the world we live in, the area we live in. We don't live in the city. And setting a precedent would be really, really tough.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. But hearing that and seeing that there's only 2 families here asking to make changes, and listening to Ms. Connor, it sounds like that I'm hearing, and stop me if I'm wrong, but you just don't want to listen to us. You don't want to do anything about it because you're afraid of precedent setting. And simple change. I understand change, right? We all need to compromise at some point. You guys compromised earlier. Why can't we compromise over a couple stops, and next year we'll probably compromise again. You'll have more families here. But I am worried about safety.
On his point where it's precedent setting, I don't have a problem saying no if it doesn't make sense to me. I also don't have a problem if it's saying yes if it does make sense to me. The other one didn't make as much sense to me to do. This one does make sense to me. When do we get to the point where we make a motion?
You can make one.
You can make it.
I'd like to make a motion that we change the bus route to the corner of Klein's in Kusendorf.
A second.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion, questions? Erica?
Just a comment. It's certainly not for a lack of listening. Now, while you point out 2 of you are here for bus appeals, that does not mean that you have been the only 2 bus appeals this year. Tom manages our bus appeals. You are 2 that have chosen to come here to talk to us, and I think it's an unfair accusation that we're not listening. I simply disagree, and that does not equal not listening. But I am glad that you came back and that we were able to have this discussion a second time. I feel your pain, and if it's reasonable to the board, I'm okay with that.
Carolyn?
What happens if somebody moves onto Parr and needs to be picked up? I'm assuming the bus would stop at L and Parr? Yes. Or Kunzendorf, same. We've had residents at Parr before. So then we're adding a stop to a stop that we have.
Well, you would consolidate them then, right?
Well, we can make the kid from Parr cross L? No. No, you can't, 'cause that one's too busy. So, but we can't come down Parr because there's no good turnaround for Parr? No. Okay.
Well, they could have the stop
Jerry?
across there.
The
This is really hard, and this isn't the first time, this has always been. I would like to suggest that we add the stop as a temporary stop, instead of saying that this is the stop we're changing, because from what I'm hearing, Alan and whatever, it is the only stop in that stretch that, before you turn down Edgewood, that is not at a driveway that has one child. So therefore, everybody else, like Vito said, has the driveway. If it's a difference to get picked up in your driveway and get picked up on a corner. And so I would like to make it like a temporary stop, because if your son's in 7th grade, I would assume in 2 years he's going to start driving and there will be nobody there. So that is the way I look at this, that with the other request, it was a permanent thing, and we were really changing more than just one place. So I just want to, I don't know if that has to be amended, but.
Isn't every stop temporary?
So basically, we view bus stops, all bus stops are subject to change, period.
Yeah.
Period, from year to year, it changes. So in situations like this, where we had elementary school parents who had concerns about being picked up on Highway L, we had made the compromise without board motion, just a compromise that said, hey, all elementary school kids, we're going into the neighborhoods unless it's a driveway stop along this route. So a compromise being made to enter the subdivision with condition that if more students show up, we're pulling it back out again.
That would be.
Yep,
something
I think that's appropriate.
So that would be up to you guys to decide if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So do we have to amend the motion then? No?
No, they'll recommend the changes if needed.
All right, any more discussion, questions?
I actually think that a motion might need to be amended. So if we're approving a temporary stop, I mean, temporary is subjective. Are you putting an end date on it?
No, after they're saying that every stop is temporary, that's fine. I guess what I'm hearing is if more students would end up being picked up there, then we would discontinue driving in, because there'd be more things, more than just, right?
I agree, it has to
Crosby?
be amended.
Okay, so I'll amend it that we would, for this year, or for temporarily, unless and more students would come to the corner, have the bus pull in. Somebody can make the words work.
Here, no second, we're gonna go on to Vito's original motion.
I was going to second.
All right. It was a while.
Having it make sense in her head.
Okay, so you're seconding the amendment.
I am seconding the amendment.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? All right, all in favor on amending the original motion to make it a temporary stop and add the stop, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carries.
That's just for the amendment.
Now we need to
so
vote on
don't
it.
need to vote on
Now we have
the.
to vote on the amended.
Yep. So we have amendment to, and now a new motion with the amendment in there to accept the change on the new bus stop for temporary reasons to look at in the future.
So for clarity's sake, we're going to temporarily change the stop for one student who is currently in 7th grade. However, if more students show, we will unchange it for more. Yes?
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
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 Roll call.
Roll call.
Sorry.
Crosby?
Yes.
Erica?
No.
Jake?
Yes.
Gail?
No.
Dale?
No.
Vito?
Yes.
Carolyn?
No.
Craig?
No.
Sherry? Yes. I didn't count.
What's that?
I think it's 5-4.
You didn't count?
5-4 against?
Oh, it's
Yes. So the motion fails. All right, we are going to move on to teacher post-employment benefits.
Okay, so we brought this information to you last meeting at the Committee of the Whole. So now we're bringing it back to approval. As we discussed on the 9th of October, the needs, really the situation to take advantage of getting an early jump on hiring and to offer that slightly enhanced post-employment benefit to teachers. So for teachers that are, I guess there's really two elements to this, and it's really if you want to do them together or one each. The first option was to increase the teacher post-employment benefits for those who meet retirement eligibility, which is 20 FTE years of service and is at least age 55, to increase their benefits. And I gave two values between 10% and 20%. I think Vito had mentioned meeting in the middle at 15%. That's really your call. But you know, the average teacher who's retirement eligible, who's been with us for basically their whole career, and they're in their late 50s or early 60s, is going to total a $70,000 contribution to either a 403B or to a premium-only health reimbursement account. By encouraging them to declare their retirements by December 1st, would give our district the ability to go find the best replacement teachers before other districts do so. So this is really a matter of using our financial resources to create better timing and better outcomes. So that's option one. Option two was then to let teachers who do not meet retirement eligibility, who are at least age 50 years old, but are not age 55 and or does not have 20 FTE years of service, that we would let them have access to their benefit, but it would be reduced and prorated for each year that they're short of age 55 or for each year they're short on years of service before years of 20. So that information is in my memo. Looking for direction if you would like for us to move forward with this offer to our teachers.
Carolyn?
I'd like to make a motion for the 2023-2024 school year that we offer a 15% enhancement to provide additional for the retirement eligibility criteria for teachers.
So number one?
Oh, yeah, and then we'll talk about number two is separate, correct?
Sure, you can do it that way.
Okay.
You said 15%.
Correct, for option number one. I see what you're asking. Yes.
So instead of 10%?
Yep.
You're wanting to up it to 15%?
Mm-hmm.
Not here in a second, so a motion is going to fail.
I will make a motion that we pass a 10% increase beyond the regular value for teachers who meet retirement eligibility, who notify HR by December 1st for their intent to retire.
Is this a 1 year?
Mm-hmm. Yes, for this year only.
Okay, thank you. I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on that second option then, to let those who do not meet teacher retirement eligibility but are at least age 50 to receive a prorated share based on their age and service?
I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second.
What are we motioning?
For the second.
Option two.
To accept it?
Yeah. As stated here?
As stated.
Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
What's the advantage of doing this?
Certain teachers that are maybe age 53 or 54, if they're not enjoying the profession as much as they once did when they started, rather than leaving the profession now and forfeiting the entire benefit, or holding out for, hey, I'll just get by, I'll put another year and I'll put another 2 years in, and maybe their love and their, I don't know, commitment, passion is diminished, that we say, okay, let's not hold you hostage here for another 12 or 24 months. We'll give you an opportunity to collect not all of your benefit, but the majority, and you can move forward, and then we can find your replacement in a timely manner. I'd say that'd be it.
There's another scenario that if a teacher is going to turn 55 in September or October early in the year, they still aren't then at that 55 level for the retirement system, but this does then help bridge that for them. It provides that additional incentive where if you go to the retirement system before age 55, you start to hit penalties in your retirement payout. So occasionally the September, October birthday want to retire, but this offers them the out as well.
Any other questions or, Jerry?
I am wondering, I guess I see the benefit, but in both the examples that you stated, it would be somebody who's like 1 or 2 years away. I think 5 years away is a lot.
Any other questions or comments?
Do you want to amend it to a different age?
Well, but it's saying for every year a teacher is short of 55. So it might be somebody at 54, it might be somebody at 53, right? Like there's
Right,
down
but I don't
to
think
at least 50. So I mean, if they're 50 and they're choosing that, they're forfeiting 5 years worth of match. I mean, they're taking the loss.
That is true. I just had heard some comments earlier from some of our citizens about someone in the regular workforce could not just get their retirement no matter what they took by leaving early. And so there's 71 teachers who are at least 50, so that's a lot of teachers. So I will amend it if people are willing to support the amendment. I would say 52. Why do you say 52? That's 3 years. So if that's in agreement, but that's just my thoughts on it.
My thoughts are if you can get a young teacher that's excited about doing it, you should do that. Just my opinion.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to pass number 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries. Going on to school safety drills.
So last meeting at the Committee of the Whole, we presented the school safety plans that summarized the drills that our principals ran in the month of September with our students, and those were written and presented to you. So we're just looking for formal acceptance of what was given to you last meeting on the 9th.
Carolyn?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the school safety drill summaries as submitted by our principals.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business.
So yeah, we have a couple things tonight. First, we'd like to recognize Scott Jankowski, who's a grandparent of a student at Eagleville Charter School, for the donation of $2,500 during the Grandparent Lunch Week. We'll make sure we get a thank you off to Mr. Jankowski. Just put the reminder memo in about the upcoming April school board elections and the associated dates. Laura will be providing the information to you just as to what you need from a campaign standpoint, finance papers, so on and so forth. But this is out there. It has the timeline of dates, events that board members must hit. It also talks about the regions in the district and who is up this year for election. The next thing, just a reminder, we got notice that the WASB convention registration is opening up. We will email you as a board the registration information for that. Kind of a promo for it. There's a tremendous amount of good information down there for board members on a range of things from curricular activities to school finance activities to policy, legal updates for board members, so on and so forth. So if you can carve out a little bit of time to be down there for a day or two, it's excellent. The vendors there, they take over the vendor hall down at the Wisconsin Center. I think that's what it's called now, or maybe it's got a new name. But if you're into free trinkety things, they have plenty of cups, pens, pencils, paper clips, and whatever. But it is a very, very informative conference for school board members and administrators alike. And then the last thing, and we'll be bringing Mr. Trudell forward in the next month. We saw our musical performance tonight. We have a tremendous amount of talent at the high school and across our district, but at the high school, they get the kind of the big stage for the kids. We want to bring forward some of our high school administration just to update the board and so that we can acknowledge the good work of our teachers, our coaches, our administrators, but most certainly our students who have been out on the field and on the stage and on the court over the last few months. You know, just for our perspective, I mean, high school sports now start right at the beginning of August. You know, so the kids, you know, we're now almost 3 months plus into these sports seasons for our teams that are going into the playoffs and into the state tournaments. I mean, they're going to be active now for the weeks ahead. So tremendous amount of commitment, tremendous amount of success that we're all very, very proud of. So that's upcoming.
All right, thank you. Just want to remind everybody, the board members, on October 31st, we have our Good Governance Conference coming up. Also, I know we've been a lot of citizens' concerns about students, or about student safety. And one of the big reasons Dr. Cook got my vote was his background in school safety. I meet with him weekly, and student safety and staff safety is always top of mind. So that being said, moving on to citizens' comments. I just want to make it clear that we're here to listen to you and not engage in like discussion. So from there, we're going to open up citizens' comments.
David Hoffman. Dave, you're going to get 3 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second warning, okay?
First of all, thank you. And thank you, Thomas, for last week we had...
Dave, can you talk into the microphone?
There you go. Oh, I don't have to yell. Thank you, Thomas, for how you dealt with a Braves incident last week that kind of helped me with this. At Prairie View, we're having an issue, and I know a lot of people want to be reactionary and just yell on social media, and I don't think that's any way to do anything. And it was follow the chain of command. And I think following the chain of command was contacting a school board member. Thank you for taking my phone call. I sent some emails. Thank you for responding. Thank you, Ms. Voss, for responding. I think it's just the right way to do it. And then follow it up and come here. So I'm letting you know that I kept my child home from school today because I heard some things and I didn't hear anything that confirmed that it was a safe environment to send my child to. So I've heard some more things today, and I still don't really know if it's a safe environment to send my child to. I've been told it is, but I don't really know how long that's going to continue. So when both Prairie View and Eagleville presented their goals, you know, there's a lot about this 50 to 80% seems to be a good majority of people that seems to be forgotten about, whether it's in education, you know, 3% or 4%, whatever it was, of the students create most of the problems on the playground. And we seem to forget about that 93%. My kid's safety, the rest of the kids' safety is just as important as everyone else's. I encourage you guys to bring this up at the next meeting, and I understand the sensitivity of it. Yeah, just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sean Budiak.
Same topic. So yes, I too was one of the, my son was one of the students that's rumored to be 50 plus today that did not attend school. It was a very difficult situation for us as a family, and one that you'll all be happy he was pretty ticked off about. He wants to be at school, he wants to be with his friends, he wants to be with his teachers. And before we came here, you know, he kind of said it was ultimately about an individual, and I said it was the exact opposite. It was ultimately about sending a message to our school board, to our teachers, to our principals, that communication can cure all. I personally did also take a step. I sent you guys an email, had a great conversation today. That conversation was limited in detail, which it has to be. But I think one of the steps that I took from it was my step to communicate with you gave me confidence that you all and Valerie have this. However, I was probably one of 5 or 6 parents that I'm sure took that step. Even though many calls were made, I'm sure. There's a lot of parents out there today that are worried about tomorrow. They're not sending their kids tomorrow. Or they're going to send their kids, and just like Dave just said, not sure what's going to happen or not confident that the kid's going to be there, you know, in the same, you know, having the same smile on their face when they come home, right? So what I really encourage you guys to do is, I know it's a sensitive conversation. I know it's a sensitive topic. There's not much you can say. But I can't help think in the bazillion pings of text messages my wife's been getting that embedded is in the root of this is safety of our students. But really it's no one has communication. And where there is no communication, we will all fill it with only negative thoughts. So I encourage you, I'm confident in the conversation I had today that we got this. I also am encouraged by Dave's comments that we trust, but we have to know long-term that we can trust. And as you are taking the next steps, thinking about the next things you have to do, I really want this board to think not only of the safety of that school and all of our schools and the moment those students enter, you also need to worry, and we're all responsible for the safety of our children on the bus to and from school. So I thank all of you for taking our children's safety to heart. Thank you for being worried about my child and all the children at these schools. And I strongly encourage us to find a creative way to fix this communication issue in spite of what we're up against. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenna Miller?
Hello.
I am here for.
Can you speak in the mic, please? Thank you.
Sorry. I'm here for the exact same reason the previous two parents were. And what you just said, I actually completely agree with him. I also did not send my 3 kids to school because I felt like there has been a huge lack of communication. And I agree with him that it is a very sensitive subject, and every kid's safety should be taken into account. And I just agree with so much what you said. Communication, clear communication can fix a lot of things. And if you don't have clear communication amongst your students and your parents, people do fill in the empty spots, the things that are questions. Now, I completely agree with what this man just said behind me. We understand that you can't share specifics of what is going on. I know things. I feel for this child that's having these issues. I really do, and I hope that they get the help that they need. But I have a lot of issues sending my kids to school when I don't have more information to go on, when I don't know what is being put in place specifically to keep them safe. I got your email about policies, and that it was nice that you posted the policies so we could all check and read it for ourselves. But I really felt like there wasn't a clear communication. And then at the end of your email, you encouraged us to reach out to the principal of the schools. And while that is nice, I feel like that puts a lot on the principal. Like, should she not have help communicating to us as well? I just feel like this could be handled in a better way, and I feel like this situation and the steps that I know are being put in place could be communicated a lot clearer. I really wish we could have a back and forth conversation about it. I understand why we can't, but I really felt the need to be here to communicate the deep concerns that not only I have, but many of the parents have at Prairie View. And I know a lot of them are not here tonight, but they are watching. So I hope you take our concerns into great consideration and decide.
30 seconds, Jenna.
Thank you. Decide to communicate a little bit better with us so we can feel more comfortable and at ease sending our kids to school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maggie Rosasinski. Did I say that right, Maggie? Rogashinsky.
My concern kind of comes as also with these parents. However, my child is not even at Prairie View. So I'm here to also represent with my friends and for other parents who cannot be here or choose not to be here. The communication that was received out of this email when there is no prior information provided to me until I have to do my due diligence to look into the situation or have been presented some more facts has made me concerned that is this happening where my child is going to school? What does this even mean? I mean, what kind of threats have been made? Is there a dangerous person that's lurking in my child's classrooms? The communication, and especially to putting this onto the principal of my school, of my child's school, if I go to her, am I going to get any more information out of it? It's very unclear, and I, again, understand the sensitivity of the situation. It's all very new. However, my student, who will be crossing over grades and be in the same school as another student who may be causing these threats, or that are feeling like they're dangerous to other students, how am I supposed to talk to him about when he receives those dangers or those threats, or he sees those dangers? How am I supposed to communicate with him how to handle himself or handle his friends? Or what education are we giving our children when they're seeing certain things being done or certain things being said? So my concern is that not just communicating with us as parents, because the parents do have the right to talk and teach our children what we want. However, my kid, if he responds a certain way in school, he may get in trouble. Is that the right way? Is that appropriate? These are my concerns that I'm seeing in the future, that I don't know, obviously me being from a different school, but still knowing about it, I have every right to go to the other parents that I know from his classroom and start asking them to start asking you guys about the communication and what's going on. If people aren't concerned, they should be. So this hopefully will
Maggie,
be
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Ronald Ranke?
Well, I guess I'd like to thank all of you and that sit around the circle for the commitment you've made to the children in our school district. I'm a bit ashamed to bring up the subject I want to bring up with all the seriousness of the situation, but I'm here to ask the administration to approach the children this is a high school matter, to approach the children of the high school to learn the Mukwonago. Mukwonago, what's the word I want to say here? It's alma mater. Mukwonago High School has an alma mater composed by a music teacher of the 1950s, lyrics written by student Lois Van Dalen. When I went to high school here, we sang it every, there's a time for fury and excitement, but sometimes alma mater, it's serious. If you've ever been to Wisconsin football games, you know what varsity sounds like. It touches people a little bit. And in all the important things you've heard tonight, this is pretty light, I know. But this is a comment. I have the right to speak it, so I'm just going to throw it out to the administration to run this by the kids to see if they would like to do this. The spirit of Mukwonago is great. I go to most of the football games, and the one last Friday night, they were really, really wild. So this might be something for the student life here in the high school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any others? All right, citizens' comments are closed, and we are going to move on to executive session.